I experience myself as an evolutionary emergent and more understand that within this unique self symphony surrounding this lineage of cosmoerotic humanism, we can impact all of reality. Yes, it is true. We can change everything. Our loving, our intention, our free will, all evolving towards more beauty, more goodness, and more truth. And we come together as student and teacher surrounded by all of us, by this vast network of people involved at the Center for World Philosophy and Religion.
I want to share a little bit about the work that we're actually doing at the Center for World Philosophy and Religion, because One Mountain Many Paths here, our gathering here every week, is a part of the center. And here we're in sacred activism, we're in community, we're in developing the Dharma. Dr. Mark Gafni is here every week teaching whatever is on his mind in that week. He's writing all week, he's teaching all week, he's articulating this new story of cosmo-erotic humanism. And here in One Mountain Many Paths, we get to taste and drink the most recent developments in that. So in that sense, as a community, we are really on the edge of evolution. We're really shaping the next step of humanity together. And as we always say here, we are facing existential risk. I think that is a big reason why we all come together here, because we know that the state that the world is in, and we are maybe worried about that or concerned about that, and we want to change that. We want to do something about it. We say that the world is in what we're calling a win-lose matrix. And what we can see from human history is that a win-lose matrix always leads a society to collapse. When it's always us against them, it ultimately leads to collapse. And that's where we are right now. But the difference is that right now we're actually not in a local community, but we're in a global community. So if it collapses now, the whole thing is going to go down. So that's what we mean by we're facing existential risk, we're facing catastrophic risk. But the beautiful, hopeful thing is that we can actually do something about it. And so that's why we're here together today, not just for our own sake, not just to feel good, not just for our own personal transformation, although that is a huge part of it, but we're actually coming together here to birth the new human and the new humanity, what we are calling Homo Amor, the fulfillment of Homo sapiens. And to become that, we need to actually articulate what we are calling, what Dr. Mark Gafni calls, a new story of value. Because it is only a new story of value that can cohere us globally, that can create the global coherence, the global resonance, and then the global intimacy that we need to globally coordinate and organize ourselves to respond to these existential risks. And so this new story of value is rooted in what we are calling first principles and first values. And that is the name of this book that we like to show so many times, because this is truly the core of the core of the core of what we are doing here. So definitely a must read. And these first principles and first values are core structures of reality. And they are not just made up. We're not here to declare some truths. They are actually the best validated insights from all the wisdom streams, pre-modern, modern, and postmodern. The best of all the religions, all the interior sciences, and the best of all the exterior sciences. All of that, everything brought together into one new story of value that you could also call a new world religion, but then as a context for our diversity. So that means that all of our uniqueness gets to have a seat at the table, because we are in a context of diversity. So all of our uniqueness is actually needed in this global unique self-symphony. And so what we're doing is articulating this new story of value. And we're doing that by what we are calling a great library, which is a whole set of books that articulates each and every part of this new story. So again, this book It articulates the 42 propositions of cosmoerotic humanism, and it actually has first principles and first values in there. For example, one first principle and first value is uniqueness. And we're also calling this little book the tip of the spear. So I always like to imagine that we're actually building a huge ship. You could call it the Ark of Noah, or use your imagination, whatever you want to envision. We're actually crossing over to the other side. We're taking humanity, this giant leap into evolution, to the other side. We're birthing this new world together. And this is the tip of the spear. So this first tiny little book is going to penetrate public culture first. And this has the first principles in it. But like I said, one first principle is uniqueness. So then right behind it, we have this big book on uniqueness, your unique self. And then another first principle is Eros. So then we have a return to Eros, which is another big book. But guess what? There's actually, after this one, we're working now undercover, I want to say, underground, invisible, behind the scenes. We're working on something that is called the phenomenology of Eros. So this is the first book, Return to Eros. But after that, there's actually 12 books, the phenomenology of Eros. And from those 12 books, there's all these mini books, essays, monographs, all about the first principle of cosmos called Eros. And what does that mean? Another first principle is called relationships. Reality is relationships. And what does that mean? So we're actually publishing right now 2 books. One is called Wholemates, The Future of Relationships, and the other is called Evolution of Love, From Quarks to Culture. And those 2 books are just ready right now. They're with the publisher now, so they will be published in the next 2 months. They will go live. So that's another whole big set of works that is being published. So you can imagine a lot is going on here. A lot is happening. One more thing that I want to share is that we're also publishing something that we have come to call oral essays, but we're actually going to change the name probably, because they're not really essays. They're actually spoken word sense makings, because all of the One Mountain Many Paths episodes that we've been doing here every week, we have transcribed all of those episodes with an amazing team, an amazing Unique Self Symphony, going through every episode, editing those episodes, cleaning them up, making them look beautiful and easy to read. And now we're going to publish all of those episodes into books as well. So that is a huge archive of all the One Mountain Many Paths into at least 40 books that we're working on this year, that will all be coming out in the next months until the board meeting, until June, July, August. That's when these little 40 mini books are going to come out. So I just want to say this is a massive project. This is a huge project. It's an important project, and we want all of us at the table, and we want all of us to play our unique self symphony, because no one can do this alone. Dr. Mark Goffney cannot do this alone. The entire think tank of the Center for World Philosophy and Religion cannot do this alone. Each of us here is needed to participate. And if you don't know yet how you want to participate, just keep coming and just come closer, and maybe have a conversation with me, have a conversation with Shahad from Eros Mystery School, find Christina Tahel, talk to people, resonate with people, and find your way into this awesome, amazing revolution. And of course, one thing that we can all do is become a member of One Mountain Many Paths and step in and resource our home. Or you can also adopt a book, or you can step into an editing project, or a reading project, or a research project. So whatever you want to do, you can find me up. We're not only doing books, we're not only doing reading and studying and writing, we're also coming together as a band of outrageous lovers, as a mystical society, as evolutionary mystics. So being in person together, actually looking into each other's eyes, feeling each other, resonating with each other, getting to know each other, really becoming a part of each other's lives, and becoming this awesome, powerful support system to help each other to become this new human and to step into the fullness of our power and the fullness of our leadership in this world, we need these places where we can actually study together in person. So that's what we're doing at Eros Mystery School. It's a 5-day gathering in Europe. And I want to share with you a clip that we made from this mystery school to give you a taste of what that can mean in your life. What does it mean to be lived as love? So we're going to watch that clip and then we'll turn to David and then we'll go to the sense making with Christina Amelung. Thank you so much.
There's this huge existential risk, right, in the world. There are about 1 million people committing suicide in the world, right? More people die from obesity, gap between the haves and the have-nots in the world that's getting wider and wider and wider, broken narrative of sexuality, male desire, female desire, completely confused.
What have we done to the world? Look what we've done.
Our crisis is a birth. Crisis is an evolutionary driver, and the evolutionary driver at this point demands a new human or a new humanity.
You're my breath and fire, my spirit.
My body, water, my blood, air, my breath, and fire, my spirit.
Dear friend.
Homo has, for the first time in human history, the awareness that I am the cosmorotic universe in person.
There's this emerging revolution, this underground revolution, this self-organizing universe, and it's us. It's all of us. That's a unique self-symphony.
You're filled with the sense of the ground of being and the eros of being, and you can actually rest in it, and it fills you up.
The work is to actually unblock and unarmor ourselves so that we can have the fullness of our being and connect to our divinity.
And feel the heart-to-heart connections as you hug.
We are being called to create a new reality, a new story. An outrageous love story that is written in the language of the soul, of the heart, of outrageous love, not the old story of duality and separation.
The offering today is we're going to do a practice to go even more deep, from homo armor to homo amor. And the energy that we use is sexual energy.
We want to arouse each other to our greatness, to our goodness, to our truth, right, to our integrity, right? And that is not about sexuality. It's about eros. It's about the eros that's at the core of everything.
We're trying to clear this central channel, right, so that you can actually allow the energy to move freely through your body.
What does eros mean? Eros is the experience, we know this together, of radical aliveness, seeking, desiring, right? Because desire is incepted in the very core of cosmos, right? Desiring ever deeper contact and ever greater wholeness.
How deep is your love? How deep is your love? It's like the ocean. Pull me closer.
So we have to heal the narrative of desire. We have to heal eros itself. We have to do a new phenomenology of what eros itself is.
Imagine this field that we have here, and then having that every day in your life, and being so loved and loving each other and really creating this world together.
One day, every man, woman, and child would have the opportunity to be lived as love. And that's what this transmission gives. It gives you the opportunity to actually have an embodied knowing of what it feels like to be lived as love. And from there, all is healed. Sounds kind of radically simple, but it's just true.
You're my breath and fire, my spirit.
My body, water, my blood,
given me so much treasure. I love you.
Wow, watching that just brings back so much of the experience of it. And I hope that it was inspiring to you, because Krista, your talk was so beautiful and it was so clear and so opening. And lest we think that it's just like a meditation retreat or some sort of personal getaway or a vacation or something like that. It has qualities of a retreat, it has qualities of vacation, it has qualities of a school, and yet it's something altogether different, right? It's where my personal evolution is not separate from cultural evolution. And so we step into this wave, this field, and we're held and we're guided, and we're also guiding and holding. It's almost like language has limitations here. I'm inspired, and I hope everyone here is inspired too. So as we go into the code, this is a new code. It's really looking at how does this new story get transmitted? Where did it come from, and how does it get transmitted? What's the role of a teacher and a student? Because in our mainstream culture, conventional culture nowadays, there's always these pop culture kind of ideas of teachers and students and throwing out the whole model, right? And just everyone's their own teacher. And so we're stepping into something so precise here, and it's not what we hear typically out there. So I just want to invite everyone into this week's Evolutionary Love Code. The teacher-student relationship is real. Like all relationships in the field of the real, it must be evolved. In the evolved expression of this sacred structure, transmission is real. Power is held jointly by the teacher and the student, who both serve the whole together. At the center is neither the teacher nor the student, but rather truth, goodness, and beauty. Finally, the personhood of the student and the personhood of the teacher must always be honored and deepened through the relationship. Such a powerful code. And you can see how, as Krista was talking about earlier, it's weaving together and going beyond previous notions of what it means to be teacher and student. And so I'm going to be turning my word now to Christina to bring us into sense making around this. And Christina is such an embodiment of this teaching. She's such a model of what this new teacher-student relationship looks like. And I've known her for about 10 years and seen her step in as a student and become deeper and deeper into this inequality of really retaining her autonomy and also really in radical devotion to the transmission and also to these values and to living them out in the world. And so I'm deeply honored and deeply privileged to be able to turn my word to you, Christina.
Thank you so much, David. And thank you, Krista. And thank you for everyone who puts together the Mystery School, because it is quite a profound experience. So diving into the evolutionary sense making of today, and thank you for everyone for being here. I just want to call each and every one of you to take a moment and notice where you are, notice the people that you're with, and notice what we're doing here and what we're responding to, and just let those qualities really surge through your whole being. And let's just feel that field that holds us together, that field of value. So thank you, everyone here at One Mountain, for the outrageous, mad love that fuels this sacred space. Today, I'm doing something that is both very exciting and slightly terrifying, in that Friday night at about 5:00 Central Time here in the United States. So just because we have such a global community and we're all over the planet at different time zones, that was like 1 a.m. Central European time. Mark calls me up and says that he's still suffering with COVID and would I do something? And the request was to write a chapter that we'd been talking about for months that will likely go into the Dharma Recap book as a introduction to the Dharma Recap book. And so at first I was like, I can't write a whole chapter and do a great job of it before now, but I did. And I'd been taking a lot of notes and I'd been thinking about it a lot. And so today I want to, in part, read that, but also be here with each of you as I share this expression. It starts as, I want to speak to the quote. And this is a little bit of a weave because I'm speaking it, so this is not exactly what will be going in the book, but I want to speak to the quote, as many of you have heard me say time and again, from our teacher, Dr. Mark's masterpiece book, which Krista was just showing, A Return to Eros. And that quote that you've heard me read again and again, which is just so moving to my own self, and I'm going to share that. A desire to survive, and it brings tears to my heart, is just that, an interior desire that is built into the deepest fabric of reality, all the way up and all the way down. The drive to survive is an erotic interior. Just want to repeat that. The drive to survive is an erotic interior. And there's a gap between our ability to feel and our ability to heal the pain in the world, that our unique life actually participates in this larger field of evolution. So how does this community here at One Mountain, Many Paths, how can we evolve the universe if we don't first feel its pulse within our being? So in this context, we share experiences speaking directly to this question, which in another way to say that is, how do we live our unique life such that it actually participates in this larger field of evolution? And so here's a bit of my own personal journey. Seeking a teacher, a journey begins. Find yourself a spiritual teacher, one of my friends had said to me, and it had never occurred to me, where would I find one? So one of the things I did, we go online and we look for things. And one of the things I did was I went to Richard Davidson's talk at the University of Wisconsin-Madison here in the United States. Professor Davidson has conducted studies with expert meditation practitioners with tens of thousands of hours of experience using MRIs and positron emission tomographies and I don't know how to pronounce it, but he's studied the brains of meditators and he works with the Dalai Lama. So I thought, well, he's a perfect place to start. And I imagine my brain being studied for enlightenment. I know it's very precocious, but these are the things that I was thinking and doing. So I'm in this room full of curious seekers and meditators. And as I look around the room, I see a few people I know. And so after Richard and some monks who are close to the Dalai Lama talk, I ran over to a woman who helped me feng shui my colon hydrotherapy clinic and said, hey, something is happening inside of me. The universe seems to be waking up to itself. Can you help me talk to Richie? Her and the staunch meditators surrounding her looked at me like I was crazy, but something within me had been set in motion. So then one of the next things that happened is I signed up for a writing workshop with Lydia Yuknovich, and that happened to be in Portland, Oregon, where I then was blessed to set up a meeting with Dr. Mark Offney because I found out that he was also living in Portland, Oregon. And he was at the time writing the Great Library and teaching and with his beloved Christina Kincaid at the Portland Movement Center. And it was my brother Jay's birthday. And I always follow the winks of what Mark calls the intimate universe. So the moment I was meeting with Mark, I asked, would you be my teacher? Without hesitation, he said, yes, if you are ready. And with that, our student and teacher relationship was born. And there's so much to this story, like first meeting Barbara Marx Hubbard, taking part in a year-long study with Dr. Mark Offney and Barbara Marx Hubbard in 2017 called the Planetary Awakening Accelerator. And here's some of that, more of that story. So Mark as a holy teacher and the student-teacher relationship. The teacher-student relationship is foundational. This is something that I've learned over all of this. It's foundational to being human. Throughout human history, teacherly transmission has held a prime importance to humanity. It has been as necessary as food, water, and breath. Tragically, modernity has medicalized our struggles, replacing wise teachers with therapists who operate in transactions rather than eternity. A genuine teacher offers their life as an absolute sacrifice, and they hold responsibility for the student's suffering. I can say Mark absolutely does, and joy. A true teacher doesn't ask you to worship them either, but rather to wake up to your own sacred power. And I have to say that Mark is all of this and more. And in Mark's understanding, both the student and the teacher constantly hold the power together, with the role of the teacher to transmit not only a new Dharma, a new story in words, but also truth of the divine. What Mark calls the infinite intimate that lives in the space between the teacher and student, between the words of the Dharma, between the people in this community. But in Mark's case, almost unheard of from a teacher, it is also to create a new lineage of empowered musicians in the unique self symphony where everyone has a seat at the table of history, not to wield power over, but for the student and teacher to wield power together for the sake of serving the whole and for the sake of empowerment of the student to their most wondrous and unique expression of grace, wisdom, and joy, all in service of Mark's great vision, the democratization of greatness, the democratization of enlightenment, and that we all, in one way or another, become teachers. It's a great invitation, and it is something that I'm living, and it's just, I'm in awe, actually. And for those of us who know Mark, the other things I want to say about him, and he actually hasn't read this, and so I can't wait till he does. More important than anything else, perhaps, is Mark is so kind and good and funny and quick to hear and praise and to admit a mistake if he has made it and to forgive and always begin, even as he is demanding of himself and tireless in his commitment and in the creative thrust of the Dharma. We all do the work together, and at the same time, there is a well of depth and radiant joy that comes from Mark that transmits truth more than anything. But most important, he has always insisted that at the center of the room is not the teacher, but love and truth themselves. The Dharma is at the center. And so for Mark, the teacher is an artist of the real for the sake of the whole, and the Dharma is the art. And anyone who is willing to enter fully, study, and willing to immerse and commits to responding to the meta crisis, because this is what we are responding to, this new story of value, this new world philosophy and religion that we are articulating with Mark. Everyone is invited to the center, and everyone has the capacity to contribute. So this is what Mark offers and has offered me: a living lineage, ever evolving, ever deepening, ever surrendering to the truth. And I'm so completely honored to have Mark Offney be my teacher. And over these years, he has really gotten to know me personally. He tracks me. He insists on my growth and transformation. He communicates his love and his respect, and he insists that we are at the table of history together. I had no idea the blessings I would continually receive when we said yes. Now I experience myself as an evolutionary emergent and more understand that within this unique self symphony surrounding this lineage of cosmoerotic humanism, we can impact all of reality. Yes, it is true. We can change everything. Our loving, our intention, our free will, all evolving towards more beauty, more goodness, and more truth. And we come together as student and teacher surrounded by all of us, by this vast network of people involved at the Center for World Philosophy and Religion, and we impact directly the way the world happens all the time. I see that. I listen to a lot of podcasts, and like when I'm out walking the dogs and things like that, and I'm constantly hearing new language emerge with all across the spectrum of podcast hosts, thinkers. So it's just so awesome to see the influence that we're having in the world. So as a student, I need to be able to receive transmissions. And as Kathy talked last week in One Mountain about transmissions, the way she listens to the Dharma with her body. But to do that, I need to be, I have found, living from within my own body and my own soul through the laws of the interior sciences, which is what First Principles and First Values is all about. It's about these laws of the interior sciences, which tell us how reality works on the inside. That is so cool, right? How does reality work on the inside, and how we can activate the new story of value inside of us and for the whole world. And all the great library books speak to this. And of course, this book, First Principles and First Values, 42 Propositions on Cosmoerotic Humanism, the Meta Crisis in the World to Come, lays out these laws of interior science with clarity and brilliance. In this book, I feel when I read it, when I pick it up, when I even have it sitting in my office, I can feel all the great lovers of humanity, from Plato to us here right now, in harmony, synergizing a profound leap of evolution. So 2 of the propositions in the book, First Principles and First Values, that have completely changed my life are one of the principles. It's not the first principles, but it's one of the principles. The problem of evil and pain must be faced, ultimately demonstrating the reality of value, paradox, polarity, and mystery. That's one of the principles. The second principle that I want to speak about even more today, cosmoerotic humanism is a response to the possible death of our humanity. I just feel so much pain when I say that every time. The crossing the hero and homo amor, incarnating Eros value from crisis to crossing revisited, the evolution of heroism. So now I'm going to dive even deeper into how I experience cosmoerotic humanism as a response to the possible death of our humanity. Every week, every single week, I prepare a Dharma recap using exact quotes from the teachings of Dr. Mark Goffney. I listen to the replay. I take notes of particular Dharmic phrases that stick out to me. And then I write and I rewrite the Dharma recap. And I bring those precise words of this lineage through Mark to the page as a process of surrender, becoming the text, evolving, transforming. I become the spiral of evolution. It's not personal development I experience at all. It is a sacred offering to the future, to each of you, to love, and to the cosmos. It's not academic, although I am learning. It's a union of myself and my teacher and the Dharma in a way that I always feel a third presence, the presence of the mystery sitting next to me as I'm working here in my office. Wow, right? So continuing, in cosmoerotic humanism, we are not passive consumers of spiritual wisdom. We come to one mountain, many paths to contribute to evolution, to be homo amor together, right here, right now. And we come to one mountain, many paths also to feel the global challenges in our bones, to engage with the collapse of the old and to birth the new based on first principles and first values. We are erotic mystics, lovers of the good, the true, and the beautiful, and we are here to evolve love together. A person who's an evolutionary is the memory of the future. Feel that in your own body. The future is calling us forward. We do face the meta crisis. And here, through Mark and the teachings of cosmoerotic humanism, we engage with the wisdom traditions and we are living as first principles and first values. And we are placing our attention on the sacred and on deepening our love. We are listening deeply, and together we go deeper. So back to a return to Eros, love as the evolution of the cosmos. In a return to Eros, we are called to reclaim the sacred erotic, the yearning for deep connection with all that is, with God. Not lust, not indulgence, but the pulse of love that has moved through the cosmos since the beginning of time. Wow. The universe itself is a love story, and we are its sacred lovers. The universe is inherently meaningful. We could all just sing that from the rooftops, right? The universe is inherently meaningful, and our lives are inherently meaningful. We are not separate from the divine. We are divine lovers in the fabric of reality, in devotion to one another. See that all the time, every day. I feel the devotion to each other in this community, to our sacred longing. We transcend mere existence and become an evolutionary force. So, more into my story. I did not come here by accident. The intimate universe continues to have its way with me. And when, for instance, and this is back to my book that is available for pre-order on Amazon, my memoir. When I was 16 years old, my brother Jay, he started telling us that he would die young. He was very relaxed about his pending death. And this first shock of existence was a future that he was okay with at 12 years old. This made absolutely no sense to any part of me or anyone else that I knew. And so I was forced into decades of intense sense-making about the nature of reality. How could someone see their future? What is consciousness? Although I didn't start using the word consciousness until I met Barbara Marx Hubbard a decade ago. How could a happy young boy be okay with dying? Jay's violent death of being hit on a bike and dragged under the car for 29 feet cracked my soul open, demanding I seek something greater. His death was an initiation for me. Through that loss, I was called into this lineage, the Dharma of cosmoerotic humanism, into evolving love for the sake of the whole, into finding Dr. Mark Goffney as my beloved teacher. And so I'm going to read a passage from the memoir, What My Brother Knew. Isn't that adorable, that picture there? That's my brother and I when we were young. The day Jay died, I became one-dimensional. So did the chairs and the couch, where, like paper dolls, my mom and I took turns lying down. We were a paper doll family, and our tabs were missing. Motion had drained out of us. We lay flat against a flat world. We had no interest in food. We no longer had space within us to hold a stomach, let alone intestines or a liver. Family from the country and friends from the neighborhood passed through all evening that night, bringing food, scrubbing dishes, sitting with us. No one knew what to do, really. We sat and stared past each other, finding walls or framed photographs, a snow-covered forest, a gaggle of smiling children, a new baby boy who wouldn't live to finish puberty. Later that night, I lay flat and thin under a sheet on the couch. The rest of the house had disappeared. I lay still, barely breathing. I watched myself, felt myself, heard myself. Did the couch creak, or was that my skin? I couldn't stay here, but I had nowhere to go. It seemed that even if a new self could emerge and reclaim motion, no new location existed. I was not aware of falling asleep, but I woke with the sunrise. I went into the kitchen and got an apple from the refrigerator. I turned the faucet on, holding the pinkish red apple in my hand under the falling water. I felt my hand becoming cold, the water changing me. I focused on the red of the fruit. The telephone rang. I bit into the apple, walking past the phone and into the living room. It was way too early for calls. I drifted to the front window and watched as the white Wisconsin State Journal newspaper van threw 2 stacks of newspaper onto our front lawn. Jay was a paper delivery boy, and the papers had come to the door. His paper route. Any minute now, he'd bound out the door. Stand. I stood, frozen, waiting for Jay to appear. I'd stepped back into the day before when Jay stuffed the newspaper into his dirty canvas bag. I wanted to stay outside the arrow of time in a world where Jay would deliver papers as he did every day. So I stood, immobile. A skirmish broke out inside of me, each side fighting for the ownership of reality. And I read that passage because it just speaks to what a challenge it is to face the meta crisis and to face death and to face difficulty, and the way that can tear us inside and bringing us back to this process of becoming more whole. And how do we each become more whole in the face of daily disasters that are coming to us through the news? So in my evolution of consciousness, one of the things is I've learned to take a day at a time from the 12-step programs. And even as I'm deeply interested in the most beautiful future and not ushering in the second shock of existence or the death of humanity, Jay taught me to always look honestly at the future, no matter what it holds. And Dr. Mark Goffney, he guides me to always be in conversation with the mystery, that erotic interior that wants to live, and to believe in that force within myself and within all of us. So I trust this dance implicitly, and the intimate universe gives me profound experiences to ground in trusting the depth of Mark, of this community, and its holy powers. And so next I want to share with you a random experience that I had after my first Festival of Love, which now this year is emerging as our Eros Mystery School. So I sure do hope to all see you there. And this crazy thing happened to me, my first Mystery School. So I'll read that. The last night of Mystery School is always a stunning dance party. My first year, I danced so hard and had my I was dancing barefoot. I had my barefoot stepped on by a person with hard-soled stompers that by the time I got to the airport a couple days later, I was limping terribly. The airport was a blur of bright lights and movement, the polished floor reflecting my pain with every hesitant step. My foot throbbed, each pulse a reminder of my vulnerability, when a very tall Dutch security guard came up to me and he said, "Ma'am, are you sure you can make it?" His voice was gentle and firm as I looked, even I, who's very tall, looked up to this very tall Dutch security guard. And I said to him, they told me I had no other options, I replied, and my body was trembling and my breath was shallow. And he nodded, eyes scanning me with quiet concern. Come into my office, he says. I'll get you a wheelchair. So I go into the office. I wait quite a long time. I'm worried about missing my plane. And finally, he comes in and I collapse in the wheelchair. I have such relief. And also another guard, dark-eyed and strong, he took my bags and together they began to wheel me through the airport. And we even stopped at Starbucks so I could get my coffee. So anyways, I say, thanks for helping me. I'm yelling out as we're running through Schiphol in Amsterdam. And I start telling them that I was just at the Summer Festival of Love with Dr. Mark Offney and I got hurt on the dance floor. And the guard says, no problem, as he's pushing me and we're literally running through the airport. And he says, it's good to help people today. It's my birthday. And I'm like, happy birthday, I said. And I'm just so struck by the stunning beauty of this moment. And so the three of us, we raced down the terminal, weaving through the crowds, barely missing a toddling child. And the birthday boy laughs, shakes his head as we start singing him, me and his friend, happy birthday. And he yells out, my friends forgot. I had to remind them. And he was so delighted that, and embarrassed, right, that we were singing him happy birthday. And so we get to the gate. And I look into his dark eyes and I say, thank you. And he smiles so deeply and he says, I'll help you get into your plane. And so I'm like, no, you don't have to do that. He's like, no, I want to do that. And so he takes my luggage and the wheelchair can't come. And so I'm leaning on him and it's so sweet. And then as we board the plane together, we walk slowly back to pretty much the very back of the airplane. And he lifts my bag in the overhead bin and everyone's watching because this guy, he's a young, gorgeous man, but also he's got his guns hanging on his outfit. And so I can just feel all the eyes on us and we've come through the whole plane. And he turns to me and he says, I know about this festival. I'm just like, what? And he says, yes, I was there last year. I'm like, really? And I feel this surge of awe. And I say, you know, Shahad, you know, Mark and all the rest. And he says, yes. And then in a moment so surreal, it felt outside of time. This young security guard, who's to this day, I don't know his name, weapon strapped to his body, he bent down and he kissed me on the lips, and the whole plane gasped. It was such a beautiful moment. And I sat in frozen wonder and he walked away and it was just such a profound moment. And then also, I feel like that was the most profound moment, but it also so happened that when I landed in Chicago, I walked off the plane. The pain in my foot was gone. My body had healed. And I just want to say that the field that Mark creates at the Festival of Love, I could just feel the whole thing working through me, working through those two security guards, working through the intimate universe and connecting me with those beautiful young men and with the healing of my body. So all of us here uniquely taking our seat at the table of history. Don't doubt it. We are participating in the evolution of love. So let us witness each other. Let us hold each other. Let us awaken together and let us step deeper, ever more deep into the power of our evolutionary relationships, serving love. Write outrageous love letters. Like I wrote a little one for this. Dear God, we are here. We want it all. We want all beings to thrive. We know it is possible. We want to feel you, God, feeling us, feeling you. So this is just not something I wrote or some talk. It is a call to arms, an invitation to step into your highest self, to be an outrageous lover of the world and to awaken to your divine responsibility. Love is not a feeling, it is the structure of reality itself. And we are here to write those next chapters together. I need you. We need you. Your presence matters. Come every week. Let the lovers find you. And as Mark says, our love lists are too short. So with that, there's more, but because we're out of time, I turn my word to Krista Josepha to close us today. And
Yes, Christina Emmelong, thank you, thank you, thank you. What an amazing storyteller you are. And not just a storyteller, but an evolutionary storyteller, a teller of outrageous love stories. And through your own personal story, your own personal transformation, we can all feel what is possible. It's like the crossing is alluring us, and it's like, yes, I want what she's having. So thank you for modeling that for us, and thank you for your courage to always dive deep in head first, I want to say, into transformation and giving yourself fully, knowing that you will show up ever more powerful on the other side. And so blessed and so privileged to be studying with you. And also as a student from Dr. Mark Goffney, I can say that it is only giving me ever more power and ever more joy in my life. And of course, all of us here, we are students of cosmo-erotic humanism. So this is the invitation. It's exciting. It's amazing. So thank you all for being here, and let's come ever closer together.